Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video, I'm excited to share with you some amazing information about a plant that many of us are familiar with and use it mainly in essential oil form, and that is eucalyptus, also known as Eucalyptus globulus. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant, has a ton of quirky facts about it. It's super ancient, and many people, if you're into essential oils, love this essential oil. It's got such a strong, distinct smell. In fact, I know some people who just absolutely do not like the smell of eucalyptus. It's so strong, kind of a camphor, reminds me a little bit of citronella. But eucalyptus is an ancient plant. In fact, I couldn't find a specific amount of years that they could tie it back to. What it really found was tens of thousands of years old. And it's a eucalyptus tree. So it reminds me a little bit of the ginkgo tree as far as how ancient. In fact, as I've researched plants and herbs over the years, ginkgo is the oldest living tree species. And I would be willing to bet that the eucalyptus tree is up in that category with ginkgo as far as one of the oldest trees on earth that have been identified, used by human beings, and not animals too much because it is toxic to animals, except for one in particular, and I'm going to share that with you. But this is a plant, this is a tree that is native to Australia, and it's got so many beautiful health benefits. It's got so many cool facts about it that I thought it would be really fun to share with you. So the information I share is not medical advice. This is just meant to entertain and educate you. So whenever you add anything, even things like essential oils, especially essential oils, always do your due diligence. Make sure that you research and you pay attention to where your body is, what health conditions you might have, what prescription medications you might be on, and just really tune into your intuition, your common sense, and your own research. It's super important. Eucalyptus, like I said, the tree is native to Australia, also naturally found in Tasmania and the nearby regions. It grows today worldwide in India, Brazil, Spain, and the United States. And one of the reasons that they cultivate it in some of these other places is for a couple of reasons. One is the tree is used for wood, for paper, for building materials. It's non-consumable, but it is used in paper products and it's used as a lumber, and it's extremely fast growing, which makes it really valuable when we have a planet full of human beings who are consuming products, consuming natural resources. And there's a little bit of a interesting thing I'm going to share with you about the eucalyptus tree. It's got a little bit of controversy because while it is super powerful for using as consumer products, it is flammable naturally. So it's really fascinating. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to share with you are the health benefits. And this is something that I personally experienced mainly in essential oil. And this is how humans have been consuming it. It's mostly known as an aromatic oil. It contains a compound called eucalyptol. And this is what it's commonly used for. Respiratory support. It helps to clear congestion, usually in a steam inhalation and in chest rubs. Think Vicks Vapor Rub. Eucalyptus oil. That's what that's in. Found in cough drops and cold remedies. This is actually a taste and a smell that I think many of us associate with being sick, especially during cold and flu season. It can make breathing feel easier during colds and sinus issues. It's also got anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. The oil has mild antibacterial and antifungal properties. So that might surprise you that those are mild. But it's actually nice because it's so potent, so powerful, so aromatic, right? It's sometimes used in wound care products, though it's diluted. In fact, I'm going to talk about the Thieves Essential Oil blend. There's a really cool, quirky history about that. But eucalyptus oil is in the modern Thieves Essential Oil blend, and we put that in our skin salve called Heals, the entire recipe of Thieves, which is cinnamon, cloves, rosemary, lemon, and eucalyptus. And this is the modern version of Thieves. And I have a really fun story to share with you about the original story, the folklore, and even what the original Thieves was actually made from. Was more of a vinegar, which is really interesting. It's also used as a pain relief, used topically, of course, diluted for sore muscles and joints. Now, it's also used in oral health, which is amazing. It appears in some mouthwashes, and it's used for reducing plaque and gum inflammation. Pure eucalyptus oil should not be ingested and must be diluted before applying to your skin. Okay, this is something that I've known the whole time I've ever been using essential oils, but in particular, eucalyptus essential oil. There are some essential oils you can use neat, spelled N-E-E-T, which means that you can use it directly on your skin. Frankincense essential oil is one of those oils that is typically found in carrier oils, but I keep a little bottle of frankincense essential oil that I use on sore joints and sore muscles, a little bit of bruising or wound healing, but because it's such an expensive essential oil, I use it very sparingly, and you don't need much anyway. But eucalyptus essential oil, or just eucalyptus oil, is very, very important that it's diluted, and it's used highly diluted in anything that people in our modern times use it for. Okay. So the parts of the plant that are used are the leaves, which is the main medicinal part, and it's distilled into an essential oil, and it's used in teas in very controlled and very small amounts. Very, very controlled and very, very small. This is one of those plants that you only need a tiny amount because it's so powerful. And this is where education comes in. Besides just taking something, think, oh, I heard that this is good, and then just start munching on it. This I would never suggest. Now, the oil from the leaves this is probably the most popular. It's the most common form, which is inhalation, which you use in a steam inhalation. And also if you're rubbing something like vapor rub that contains eucalyptus essential oil, there's a vapor that comes from that eucalyptol, and it clears sinuses. It improves airways, okay? So inhalation, topical products, and other medicinal formulations. Now, the wood in the bark is not medicinal, but it's widely used for timber, for paper, and for fuel, which is amazing. The eucalyptus flowers is a massive pollinator, and there's places that produce honey and it's called eucalyptus honey, and it has a very strong herbal flavor. If you've ever tasted eucalyptus honey, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not overpowering. It's there in a subtle way with the sweetness of the honey. And if you get an opportunity you could probably find it online if I were to guess. It's delicious. And especially if you're a honey lover like I am. My favorite honey right now is Manuka honey, which I believe comes from New Zealand mostly. But that is my favorite honey at the moment. It's full of not just deliciousness, as all honeys are. Like I love lavender honey, I love eucalyptus honey, but it has a ton of antibacterial properties. I know some people, if there's insulin problems or diabetics, that is a natural sweetness, but it still will spike your insulin a little bit. But if you're able to experiment with honey, you love honey, I would suggest that you try eucalyptus honey if you haven't in the past. Eucalyptus is not a typical food for human beings. But here's the thing. Some Aboriginal Australians have used it in medicinal teas. The modern use is this, mostly as a flavoring in very small amounts in candles and syrups. So it's mostly as a flavoring in tiny, tiny amounts. Of course, candles, eucalyptus along with citronella. In fact, a lot of people will just buy a citronella candle and put it in an outdoor setting to keep the pests, the insects, mostly the mosquitoes away. But eucalyptus is also good for that as well. Most humans do not eat eucalyptus the way that animals like the koala bear do. It's actually toxic in large doses. I knew that, but I honestly did not realize to the extent about the koala, which is really awesome. So the cool thing is the eucalyptus tree grows fast and adapts easily. And sometimes it adapts and grows too fast and too easily and is considered invasive. So there are reasons to be very careful. Besides the flammable piece, the fact that it can be invasive and grow very, very fast. I would be very strategic if you choose to plant a eucalyptus tree in your yard, on your property. This might be something that you already do, and maybe it's brought a whole bunch of beautiful qualities into your yard, the way you use it. Maybe you make an essential oil, or you learned how to distill an oil, because I know some people love to do that. I'd love to know from you, is this something that you have actually done or experienced? Maybe you have a eucalyptus tree in your yard. I'd love to hear. Put it in the comments if this is something that you have experience with and you love having a eucalyptus tree in your yard. How long have humans used it? This is what I found. The indigenous Australians for tens of thousands of years. It couldn't pin it back to 100,000 years or 200,000 years, tens of thousands of years. So this is a very ancient tree. They use it for wounds, infections, and fevers. The leaves were crushed and inhaled or applied. It was introduced into Western medicine in the late 17 to 1800s. So only a couple hundred years, 200 to 300 years, has eucalyptus been in use into modern civilization. It became popular for treating respiratory illness pretty quickly, and it has been widely used during outbreaks like influenza. And I believe it's still commonly used, and especially as we're transitioning as human beings into this beautiful new era of understanding plant medicine, understanding the gifts that God put on this beautiful planet for us to keep ourselves well and know that there's abundance and healing for everyone. There is a huge shift. We are in a window of transformation right now that it makes it such a beautiful time to be here and be alive and experiencing all of these things that human beings have been experiencing since we've been on this beautiful planet. But also, as more and more humans are gravitating toward this type of knowledge and this type of health and healing, I think it's the most exciting time to be here and learn about these things and incorporate them, right? So while modern science has only studied it recently, its traditional use is extremely ancient. So this is the bottom line. Eucalyptus is a medicinal powerhouse, especially for breathing and antimicrobial uses, but not really as a food. Humans have relied on it for thousands of years, mainly using the leaves and their oil, and its global spread has made it valuable and controversial. Okay. So this is what I found. I thought this was so fascinating. Here is the reason why it is a little bit controversial, because it's also known as the explosive tree. Okay. Now think about that. That would make it kind of a fire hazard, right? So here's what I found. Eucalyptus trees don't literally explode like fireworks, but they come close. Their leaves are packed with volatile oils that vaporize in heat. Okay, think forest fire, okay? In a wildfire, this creates a flammable cloud around the tree, which can intensify flames dramatically and cause the fire to spread faster and jump gaps. Like, how fascinating is that? I mean, it makes perfect sense when you have these volatile oils in a tree. Think about if a wildfire starts in a eucalyptus tree grove, that would be a spectacular thing to witness and be far away from. And of course, I'm sure that there are people, firefighters, people who specialize in putting things like this and keeping them in control. This would be an interesting thing to learn about how firefighters and even indigenous people from Australia who've been using this for tens of thousands of years have actually dealt with something like this, okay? Some species even shed burning bark strips, because this is partly what the tree does, is it sheds its bark in strips, not just to protect the tree from different pests and different fungi. It's like a natural protectant. It protects it from, like I said, parasites and fungus, but it also sheds these bark in strips. It leaves these beautiful colors. In fact, a eucalyptus tree, there's a smooth bark underneath. And as it just starts to peel naturally, think about during a wildfire, as the tree bark peels and then it gets blown away on the wind, it's a massive fire hazard. This is why I think, this is why from my own research, this is a controversial tree because it is volatile. Some species even shed burning bark strips, acting like natural firebrands that carry flames to new areas. Oh, I would love to have a conversation with a firefighter who actually has fought a fire like that. I'm sure there are hundreds of them at this point because of places around the earth that have this tree. It's one reason eucalyptus forests can be so hard to control once a fire has been ignited. Crazy to even think about. Powerful Mother Nature, right? So this is also what I found because I knew that the koala bear lived on a diet of eucalyptus leaves, and I had really never thought about it past the point of just knowing that as a fact, right? So the koala survives on a diet that would poison most animals, which is the eucalyptus leaves. Crazy, right? Here's the thing that is really crazy. It's low in nutrients, but it's high in toxins. But this is how a koala bear handles this. They have a specialized liver that detoxifies the chemicals. So their liver is extremely specialized. And then a very long digestive process, which ferments the leaves in the gut. And I saw a graph while I was researching this of what the digestive tract of a koala bear looks like. And it is longer than a human being's. It's very, very complex and concentrated, but because this plant is so low in nutrients and so high in toxins that the koala bear is busy processing and digesting, a koala sleeps up to 20 hours a day because they just don't have the energy to be out and active and running all about because they don't have enough nutrients and their body is busy digesting these toxic leaves, which is crazy. Then because the food gives so little energy, they sleep up to 20 hours a day. Oddly, they're also extremely selective. So a koala is very selective. They choose only certain eucalyptic species and even specific trees, which sounds like picky humans, right? So then this is cool because I touched a little bit on the beautiful way that the eucalyptus bark turns into a multitude of colors. And this is really cool. Most eucalyptic species shed the bark in dramatic ways. They peel off in long ribbons away from the trunk, and the paper-like layers flake away. There are smooth trunks that are revealed underneath. Really, really cool. And I did in my research see so many beautiful photographs and pictures and even a few videos of the beautiful rainbow colors on a eucalyptus tree trunk. This isn't just cosmetic. Here's what shedding the bark does. It helps remove parasites and fungus. It reduces the buildup of flammable material on the trunk, which is really cool and also helps protect the species because think about when a fire happens and it just wipes out a whole forest, a whole bunch of eucalyptus trees. So this is the tree's way of shedding the flammable parts of it, okay? It also creates a striking multicolored rainbow eucalyptus pattern, which is really cool. Now, I touched on this already. Some eucalyptus species grow astonishingly fast, several feet per year under the right condition. This makes them valuable for paper and timber industries and popular for reforestation projects. And this can also be just a touch bit controversial too, okay? Because this is what I found. It's also known as the water pump tree. Okay, this is so fascinating. And this is not only the brilliance of Mother Nature, but the interesting fact as human beings take species that are natural to one part of the world and move them to other parts of the world to do a specific job, either provide resources or to do something specific. Like this is what I found. The less well-known but fascinating eucalyptus trees are sometimes called natural water pumps. Their roots can pull large amounts of water from the soil and can help dry out swampy areas. This is really fascinating. This led them to being planted in parts of the world to help reduce malaria by drying mosquito habitats. But again, the downside is heavy water consumption, which can literally stress local ecosystems. So think about that. We're trying to reduce malaria by reducing the swampy areas where mosquitoes have their natural habitat. But then because that's unnatural, it stresses the local ecosystems. So to me, it's really fascinating. And at the end of the day, what I truly believe, and just from all my research and all my study and all my intuition and all the things that I study, look at, and intuitively tune into, I believe that Mother Nature, this beautiful planet Earth, will always take care of herself. And sometimes at the expense of humans. I mean, this is the way it's been for a really long time, right? So here is the big picture. Eucalyptus is full of contradictions. There's no doubt, right? It's healing for humans, but it's toxic to most animals. It's useful in the industry as far as providing timber and wood and resources, but it is potentially invasive. It's fire adapted, but it's fire intensifying. So it can adapt to protecting against fire, but it also can intensify a fire. So it is full of these beautiful contradictions. So this mix of traits is what makes it one of the most fascinating and sometimes controversial trees on the planet, which I think is amazing. Now, I wanted to share this last piece with you because I think that as modern humans, the tradition behind the Thieves essential oil blend, we think that this may be, unless you've done some deep research, we think that this traditional 5 herbs or essential oils that are in this blend are ancient and hundreds of thousands of years old or thousands of years old. But that is not actually true. So it is typically was known as 4. There were only 4, but it was more of a vinegar. So this is what I found. The Thieves blend traces back to a popular story from the time of the plague in medieval Europe. And this was actually linked to the Black Death. Okay, there have been some very, very famous plagues that have wiped out huge swaths of humans during their run and their havoc, right? So this is according to legend. A group of thieves robbed the homes and sometimes the bodies of the plague victims. Despite exposure, they didn't get sick, okay? When they were caught, they revealed their secret, a mixture of herbs, spices, and vinegars, and that they used to protect themselves. This mixture became known as the 4 Thieves vinegar, okay? A kind of herbal antimicrobial preparation. Okay, so what was it? This is what was in the original Thieves blend. Clove, cinnamon, rosemary, garlic, and a vinegar base, okay? There was no eucalyptus present. It wasn't part of the original blend, okay? That's because eucalyptus is native to Australia and wasn't in Europe at the time. I mean, it makes sense, right? So this is how eucalyptus got added later. Eucalyptus only entered the global herbal medicine much later. It was introduced to Western science in the late 17 to 1800s, and it became popular for respiratory and antiseptic uses. All right. Its oil, which is rich in eucalyptol, it fit well with the germ fighting theme. So you think about the Thieves essential oil blend theme. This particular essential oil fits so well into that. So modern essential oil companies adapted the old Thieves vinegar into a new blend, often including clove, cinnamon, rosemary, lemon, and the eucalyptus was for respiratory and antimicrobial properties. So this is how it actually works. And I love this. There are 2 layers. The legend itself, there's no solid historical evidence that a group of immune thieves even existed. Okay. So there's not anything solid that can be tied back. Now, if someone that's watching this knows of a resource, and I actually didn't do a super deep dive into finding something like that, but I would love to know if anybody actually knows a resource that can verify that, okay? So it's more folklore than documented history, okay? The ingredients were mostly components, especially clove and cinnamon oil, which do have real antimicrobial properties. And the eucalyptus can help with the respiratory symptoms and the antibacterial properties. But it is not a cure or a shield against serious disease. I think that is the most important thing, that while it is extremely pleasant, we put the Thieves essential oil blend in our Heals skin salve. I mentioned that earlier. This we've had around for 12 or 15 years. We've been making this for a really long time. It's got a beautiful base of coconut oil, shea butter, beeswax, vitamin E acts as a preservative. It's got some lomatium oil, sometimes chaparral oil, depends on what we have available. And it's got the modern Thieves essential oil blend, which contains these 5. This is one of my favorite salves because it smells so good. This blend of essential oils smells so amazing. So today, the Thieves Oil Blend is essentially a brand-inspired name used by companies. It's not a single standardized formula, but you'll find it in essential oil blends, cleaning products, soaps, and sprays. In fact, one of my favorite things to make when I make batches of homemade soap is to make a Thieves essential oil blend soap. It's heaven in the shower. In fact, any homemade soap is absolutely heaven on your skin. And with the essential oils, especially I would say if you're a soap maker, it's important, at least to me, to use essential oils rather than just flavored oils or fragrance oils. So something that is actually essential, totally good for your skin. So each version varies slightly depending on who you get it from. But this is the core idea of this Thieves Essential Oil Blend. It's warm, it's spicy, and it's associated with protection and cleansing, which I love. So then just a couple of quirky notes about this old legend, which I think is just super fun to share. Some versions say that the thieves were spice merchants, which explains the access they had to these rare ingredients. Others claim that they got reduced sentences in exchange for the recipe. The original preparation was often called vinegar-based and not oil-based. It reflects a broader medieval belief that strong smells could ward off disease, okay? And then the bottom line is this. Thieves oil is a modern reinterpretation of an old European folk remedy. The original blend had herbal vinegar and no eucalyptus. The modern blend is essential oils and eucalyptus added centuries later. So the story is mostly legend, but it's very memorable. And I think it's an absolutely wonderful piece to add into the amazing, quirky history of this ancient tree that has so many beautiful medicinal properties, especially in tiny amounts for humans. But it also has these beautiful contradictions. And it's fun to learn about what these plants do, how they originate, how humans have used them over the centuries. And it just adds these rich layers of all the things that we can do and benefit from these gifts from Mother Nature. I'd love to know what you think about this amazing plant, this incredible tree. And if you have one in your yard, if you've ever planted one, and what you think about all this. So thanks for tuning in today, guys, and we will see you in the next one.